Hey guys, it's your old buddy Kirk Town stopping in to say hello, checking out another episode of Cool Rare Finds with your buddy Kirk. On this episode, we're going to go over some cool stuff that I collected over the years about Randy Rhoads. I love Randy Rhoads. He was a very inspirational guitar player, still is to me to this day, hence the polka dots in honor of Randy Rhoads. So I thought I would share with you some of my really cool rare finds and tell you a little bit of stories behind them. This one is a Randy Rhoads bootleg album, and this is called Load Up. Now on this album, it has some demo stuff, some rare outtakes. It even has some Ozzy stuff from 1981. So it's cool, and I love it. And I dig this kind of stuff. So for me, I couldn't get enough of these things. I thought it was so cool. We'll share a few of those with you. Also, here's another really cool bootleg. This one is From Obscurity to Eternity. And this one has a bunch of outtakes. And I believe this is even pre-Quiet Riot. And then some Quiet Riot in there. And it's just a collection of rare tracks and studio outtakes. So for a fan like myself, it's super, super, super cool. And I dig this stuff. So, now to the stories. So, I was fortunate enough to meet Carlos Cavazo of Quiet Riot, and I've met Quiet Riot, but Carlos was very gracious, extremely cool, and I showed him some of the things that I had and asked him, man, is there any way I can get back there to see if Kevin would sign these? He said, Kirk, come on, man, no problem, we'll take them to him. He said, now, some of those things, are bootleg, right? And I said, oh yeah, I know they're bootleg, but it would be just cool for me. It's not about selling them or anything. It's just for my own personal collection, just because I loved it. And he said, come on, man, it'll be awesome. So, one of the things was that Obscurity from Eternity. He took that and he said, it's a bootleg, right? I said, yeah. He said, okay. So Kevin DuBrow signed it. Later, I got Rudy Sarzo to sign it. But it's super cool. Now, this next one that I'm going to show you is awesome. He said, Kurt, these are, there's very few of these out there, but I've seen them on occasion, and you never know. And I said, hey, that's cool, man. So this is Quiet Riot 1. Now, this is their first album. And so when we took it back to Kevin DuBrow, Carlos said, hey, man, I know these are bootlegs, but would you mind signing them? And Kevin was like, no problem. So he looked at the previous album and he said, yep, bootleg. Looked at a couple things, bootleg, no problem. He looked at this. He looked at the front. He looked at the back. Pulled out the album, looked at it, and he said, nope, this is the real deal. This is what we gave to our family and friends, and we also, gave to our fans that were back home because these were only released in Japan. And Carlos and I looked at each other and we said, what? And Carlos said, are you sure that's not a bootleg? He said, man. He said, that's the ones we handed out to our family and friends. Very nonchalantly, nope, that's the real deal. And thank you, Carlos Cavazo, because you helped me get it signed. Now, whether or not it's, a bootleg or the real deal, all I can do is take Kevin's word for it. I don't know, but it means the world to me regardless. So this is really awesome. So for me, hearing these albums and seeing how they came about and where they came from and how he climbed the musical ladder to get better and better and better and to hone his craft, to me, that's what's so important about this stuff is I take it in the context of what it was in. And Quiet Riot was one of the biggest LA bands they had, and they were struggling to get signed. They had been with everybody trying to get trying to get a deal, and it just wouldn't happen. And all these bands were passing them by. And so later on, Randy joined Ozzy. That's a whole other story. And, oh yeah, on this, my friend Kelly Garni is on there. So you've got Kelly Garni, Randy Rhoads, Kevin DuBrow, and Drew Forsythe. And I'll tell you the story about Kelly Garni. So I had the honor and the privilege of being invited by a mutual friend. We flew out and I recorded with Kelly Garni, Kelly Rhoads, and Robert Sweet of Striper. And it was amazing. I had a blast. And I'll tell you that story sometime too. But Kelly, the Kellys, and Robert and I became very good friends. God bless you guys. I hope you're doing well, and I'll talk to you soon. And so I got these great Randy stories, and Robert Sweet and I were just keeping our lips closed and listening to the Kellys, Kelly Garni and Kelly Rhoads, tell these amazing stories, and they're great, great, wonderful people. So, Quiet Riot 2. This album, a Japanese release, is very cool. Now on this cover, you'll see Rudy Sarzo, Kevin DuBrow, Randy Rhoads, and Drew Forsythe. Now Kelly Garni is recorded on this album, but he had left to pursue other things, and so they put the new guy, which was Rudy Sarzo, who later went into the Ozzy Osbourne band and joined Randy there as well. And this is a super cool album. I just love having these things. When you have things that you pursue and you hope to find, you get that nugget in a music store or a thrift shop or a record store or something, and you're like, wow, man, I scored. This is so awesome. It makes your day, and then you have a really cool, rare find, and that's what this is. So, there's some other one. Now, what you're listening to is, in fact, Quiet Riot, the Randy Rhoads years. This was put out in '93, and I'm so glad they did it because, again, I got to hear all these cool songs, and there's a whole story behind this, but I'm so glad they did it. And I'm going to try out this new effect for you guys today. My wife was saying, hey, it'd be cool if you could see it better, so a 3D effect. That was for you, truly. I love you. Yeah, hey man, the budget's slow. Anyway, this is cool, man. Quiet Riot, the Randy Rhoads years. I love this. I listen to it occasionally, You got to be in the mood for anything, and so I pull these out, and it's just really cool stuff. Then we get to Guitar World magazine. Now, when I first started learning how to play guitar, matter of fact, the second riff I ever learned how to play was, in fact, Crazy Train. My friend Joe, he said, yeah, I'll teach you that lick. And then he got really mad and started yelling at me. He goes, man, I've been teaching you this for 6.5 hours. And he looked up at the clock and goes, I can't believe that. I'm done. I'm never teaching you anything again. I think it was probably more like 4.5 hours myself. But I got it. Dun, 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 dun. Thanks, Joe. I've played that a few hundred times, I'm sure. But in this magazine, it gave me a really cool, rare insight to how Randy Rhoads was as a teenager. And so I decided to pull this out for you guys. And this again is the photo from Obscurity to Eternity. But in this photo, you see Rudy, Randy, Drew, and Kevin. And then down here, you see my buddy Kelly Garni. And of course the other guys as well. But this was just super cool stuff. And I was so happy to get it. And it just gave me an insight to Randy Rhoads, what his interests were, as a kid. And I found that fascinating. So I read this many times, I wore it out. But I got Kevin to sign that as well. And it's fading out, but that's okay. Those things happen. I cherish it. Doesn't mean anything to me to get rid of it to anybody or sell it to anybody. So for me, I have the memories, and that's what's cool. Now, this came out around the time of the tribute tour in '87, and I could not wait to get that album, and I was so glad I did. As a matter of fact, we used to play, in my old band, we used to play The Crazy Train as we heard it from King Biscuit Flower Hour, which had that intro, that da-da, da-da-da-da-da, wow. So we did that intro to it, and when we did, all the kids in our school, you know, high school and everything, were going, wow, they'd never heard a version like that. So we did that probably, I guess, about 6 months or so, something like that, before anybody ever had a chance to hear Tribute. And everybody was blown away by our version until Tribute came out, and then boom, just like that, they were like, oh, you guys are just playing their version, man. But we did it first. So it was awesome. So here's another really cool rare find. This is Kelly Garni, and it's his book, and I will talk more about this. But in Kelly's book, again, he talks about Randy Rhoads and his friendship with Randy Rhoads and the Rhoads family and growing up and what he did later. And he was just a wonderful person. He was very kind, and we've become good friends, and he signed it for me. And yes, I support my friends, so I buy these things in hopes to help them. And it was wonderful. Thank you for signing it. And I'll show you that picture of that, I'm sure. But I will talk more about this at another time. Now, again, Carlos Cavazo was super, super cool meeting him. He was awesome, and he is the guy who was responsible for getting me back there with Kevin DuBrow and getting those autographs. So I really appreciate you, Carlos. You've always been a wonderful person. And he did, in fact, sign these too. So Carlos and Kevin, this is the Quiet Riot album that we all know and love, that went to be number one on the Billboard charts. And I got to give a shout out to my buddy Hector, who always loved this mask. And he and I would talk about this mask often. So he surprised me with this mask gift. and yes, I think it's cool. So thank you, Hector. You rock, man. This is awesome. And again, I just wanted to say thank you to Carlos. I later got to meet, of course, everybody in Quiet Riot, actually several times. You know, Rudy Sarzo was always a gentleman. Frankie Benally, what an amazing drummer. What an amazing drummer. Carlos Cavazo, man, amazing, super, super cool. From Atlanta, Georgia. He's just as down to earth as he could possibly be. Kevin DuBrow was a total rock star, but he was nice and he was kind. And it was a pleasure meeting him. We'll talk more about this album, I'm sure, and we'll talk more about Quiet Riot in future episodes. You can believe that. But this definitely qualifies as a cool, rare find because it's autographed by the fellas, and means a lot to me. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell all your buddies. And if you don't have any buddies, tell your enemies. But tell somebody. Go out there and have a good time. Enjoy it. Have some music and crank it up to 11, because this one goes to 11, man. So anyway, have a great day. Take care and God bless. And we'll see you soon. Hopefully back on the road playing some music for you. Take care.